All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. Is Brandon Aiyuk on the move? Are the Niners on the verge of dealing their second franchise wide receiver in a matter of days? We'll discuss it all next. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out there in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And this video is brought to you by LearnKey's Upskill Academy, an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in 6 months or less. It's true, whether you're interested in IT, cybersecurity, marketing, or another high demand field, they offer 30 different certification programs to help you take your career to the next level, to the next step. They've been in business for 37 years. They have over 200,000 students that they currently are working with, and they place hundreds of people annually in good paying, high paying jobs. So if your career needs a jump start and you're looking for a little help, LearnKey Upskill Academy. The link's in the description. And thanks to LearnKey Upskill Academy. Thanks to them for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. We appreciate them greatly. All right, let's talk a little bit about the latest in 49er land. It sounds like the 49ers, and I said this last week, I heard John Lynch speak at the Combine, and Chase Sr. asked him a question. Hey, what about the Aiyuk trade rumors? And he, instead of just saying, hey, look, we love Aiyuk. We just signed him. He ain't going anywhere. He's not going to be traded. But thanks for the question, which would have put the whole thing to bed. He didn't say that. He didn't say that at all. So, it's hilarious. The people were like, I doubt he's going to be moved. Really? Really? You doubt he's going to be moved? I doubt you know what you're talking about. I really do. Because John Lynch spoke the truth earlier this year when he told, John Lynch speaks the truth, period. End of sentence. Kyle Shanahan, for the most part, speaks the truth, period. End of sentence. If your first mode is to try to find what they say and realize the lies and, what are they really trying to say, you're overthinking it. You're overthinking it. John Lynch said, you know what, a couple years ago, we love Trey Lance. We think the world of Trey Lance, but we got a team that's ready to win now. And then he went on and said a bunch of other things and was non-committal. And it's like, I heard that and I said, oh, they're trading Trey Lance. And sure enough, it took until August to get it done, but they were trading Trey Lance from the moment he spoke at the Combine to August. The entire time they were shopping Trey Lance. So, I said it. I read it for what it was. I said it as much. I said, you know what? They're trading Trey Lance. And I took tons of heat for it. Earlier this year, Tim Kawakami asked him at the end of the season, hey, what's up with Debo? What's the deal there? And he said, hey, man, we're not in the business of giving away good football players. And yet tons of people ignored that statement and were like, no, they're going to release him. It's in their financial best interest, their cap interest, their blah, 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 blah. And wrong. They traded him for a 5th-round pick. So all the people that said that he wasn't going to be traded, they were wrong. And John Lynch said as much. And then Chase Sr. just asked John Lynch about Brandon Aiyuk. Hey, Brandon Aiyuk, what's the deal with the trade rumors? And he started off by saying, well, that's what happens when you got a good player and people want him and this and that. Then he went in to say how much cash the Niners have spent, that it can't continue, that they have to hit a reset. And the positive part of all of this is that we have an old roster and we need to get younger. So what's the positive? He basically told everybody, I'm going to trade Brandon Aiyuk for an offer that's going to seem beneath his value, but it's going to net us some draft capital and improve our draft hand. And we're going to chalk it up as a loss and move down the road. That's basically what he said. Basically said, hey, you know what? We're going to trade Brandon Aiyuk, and we're not going to get real full value because he didn't even have to say that. We know he's not going to get full value. You just signed him to a big money deal, and he blew up his knee. A lot of people would be shocked at all if there was anybody that offers you any value at all. So, but John Lynch said it. He's like, hey, look, if somebody, we need to hit a reset and, we need to get younger. And so I read that as John Lynch saying, you know what? we're on the verge of trading Brandon Aiyuk away for what is probably going to be beneath market value when you really think about how good the player is. But we're going to get younger and cheaper in the process. And we're getting out from underneath all this money, and we're hitting a financial reset. We're going to pay our quarterback $100 million guaranteed. And we're going to hit a financial reset on some of these non-essential big money guys on our roster. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, you're at the top of the list. That's it. That is the story. So Adam Schefter reported on the Pat McAfee show that the Niners are willing to listen to offers on, quote, just about anybody. So they're not, it's not like they're necessarily in the middle of a rebuild, but they're definitely trying to retool and reload on the cap. And one player that Schefter specifically mentioned could be available is Brandon Aiyuk. Now, trading Aiyuk would, be a huge move for the 49ers because that would be the second premier wide receiver that they've moved on from in just the last couple of weeks. And Aiyuk recently signed that 4-year extension worth $120 million. But it's pretty obvious the Niners, even before he blew out his knee, had all kinds of reservations about doing that deal. And they were probably split opinions in the front office about whether or not they should have done that deal. And it looks like in the aftermath of the knee injury, they want to get out. They want to get out from underneath the commitment. 4 years, $120 million. Now he's coming off a blown out ACL, a blown out MCL, a blown out meniscus. But he's 26. So, he's 26. Did he have a serious injury? Yeah. Is he going to be ready week 1? No. But is his career over? No. The miracle of modern medicine, they'll put him back together. And at age 26, he'll probably have a decent career. Enter the New England Patriots. They have been trying to get a receiver for the longest time, and nobody's willing to go there. Aiyuk himself said he didn't want to go there. So now the Patriots are rumored to be interested in Aiyuk as they're looking for a way to help Drake May become the young, great quarterback they're dreaming he's going to become. And if the 49ers trade, Aiyuk and Deebo away in the same offseason, man, that puts a lot of pressure on Ricky Pearsall, a lot of pressure on Jacob Cowing, a lot of pressure on Jawan Jennings. And I don't think the 49ers will be done making moves. But you look at that New England receiving core. They have Kendrick Bourne, Kayshon Boutte, Demario Douglas is their best. Pop Douglas, they call him. Good player at Liberty, and he's been good in the NFL. They also have Jalen Polk, who's a second-round pick last year, and then Javon Baker from Central Florida is a fourth-round pick. And they like both those guys, but, they're totally unproven, as is Boutte. Bourne's a little long in the tooth. Douglas is small. So they're looking for a big-time receiver, and they have been unable to get one for whatever reason, any number of reasons. So what would a deal from New England look like? First of all, do I believe there's actually a deal, or if it's just internet rumors? Well, there's been a lot of different people in Boston reporting this. It's not just one or two. It's been like 5 or 6. I haven't gotten that super credible Schefter or Rappaport report that says, he's going to the Patriots or there's fire there with the Patriots, but I think there is. And it's all really comes down to what's the price tag? I mean, this is talk about a hard thing to figure. It was hard to figure what was Deebo's price tag because he was a good player, but he's regressed, but he has a big contract, but he's only 28. And there was all these different, what would he go for? And ultimately he went for a 5th-round draft choice. Is Aiyuk worth more? Is Aiyuk worth less? Aiyuk's younger. He's probably got more upside, but he also is coming off a serious injury. And he's probably not going to be ready before November. So, for a team like New England, though, that's having a hard time, they got a ton of cap room and they have a young quarterback and a hard time finding any support for that quarterback. Maybe they look at Aiyuk and say, bring him here. The Pats do have 3 7th-round picks, I believe, and 2 3rd-round picks. And one of the reports that I read yesterday was that Aiyuk could wind up going to the Patriots in some form of a pick swap. Now, the Niners pick 11 in the first round. The Patriots pick 4 overall in the first round. Would the Patriots take Brandon Aiyuk and the 11th pick to allow the 49ers to move to the 4th pick in the draft And if that were the case, what do you think the 49ers would do with the fourth pick in the draft? I think Cam Ward's going 1. Okay. I think it's pretty clear that, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think the top 3 picks are going to go Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, and Abdul Carter. Now, what happens if the top 3 picks go Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders? Then Abdul Carter technically is there for the 49ers if they trade up with New England and they get the 4th pick overall. So, basically, if you say, well, what would that do for the Niners? That would put them in primo position for either Abdul Carter, if they want the edge rusher, Will Campbell, the offensive tackle, if they want the offensive tackle, and he's got shorter arms, 33-inch arms. So a lot of people think he's going to fall down the board a little bit. And then there's Mason Graham, the ready-made defensive tackle who's a plug-and-play player right away. And my guess is the 49ers want Mason Graham. That would be my guess. Maybe Abdul Carter, who's very special, but my guess is that they want Mason Graham. Now, what do I think the Patriots want? I think the Patriots want Will Campbell, but now that he's got shorter arms, they don't want to take him 4th overall. So I think the Patriots may be willing to make this deal and move from 4 down to 11 because I think they've got a reasonable expectation at 11 that somebody between Kelvin Banks Jr., Will Campbell, and Armand Membu, let's say the 3 top offensive tackles, and the Pats would like to get one of them. Think about it this way. In one move, most teams look at it this way. We want to find our franchise quarterback. We want to find our target, our franchise quarterback, draft him, bring him in. Okay, so now after we have our franchise quarterback, what's next? We want to build around that franchise quarterback. Get him a big-time left tackle, get him a big-time receiver. Well, the Patriots in this move potentially can do exactly that. They could wind up getting Aiyuk, giving them a true number 1 veteran big-time receiver, and also still move from 4 down to 11 and probably get their pick of Membu, Will Campbell, and Kelvin Banks Jr. at 11. So if you're the Patriots, I think it makes sense. It may not involve a first-round move up. Maybe it's the 49ers giving Aiyuk to the Pats for the Niners' 4th-round pick, and the Pats give their 2 third-round picks to the 49ers and a 7th-round pick or something like that. I mean, something like I think, you can hide the value of Brandon Aiyuk if you include him in a package of picks and players. Because ultimately, I mean, I think Aiyuk's value is obviously diminished greatly based on his injury and his contract. So, but, does Brandon Aiyuk in a 4th-round pick get you a 3rd-round pick? I would say probably. Maybe Brandon Aiyuk in a 4th-round pick might get you 2 third-round picks. It might get you 2 third-round picks and a pet player. What player would the Patriots have that the 49ers would want? That's difficult to say, but I'd give you a couple names that I think are interesting. If it did involve a player coming back, offensively, there's not a lot of players on the Patriots that I think would be good Niners, but the Niners need another quarterback. Joe Milton, the 3rd. They have Drake May and Jacoby Brissett's a free agent there. They have Joe Milton. There's been talk they may move Joe Milton. Would the 49ers be interested in Joe Milton as a backup? That would be an interesting name. Another interesting name would be Kendrick Bourne. Maybe the 49ers. How about Brandon Aiyuk and the Niners' 4th-round pick to the Patriots for their 2 third-round picks and Kendrick Bourne? Would you do that deal? Kendrick Bourne is obviously, a popular player with Kyle Shanahan, popular player with, a guy who's been a one-time 49er would be coming back. The only other name on defense, or the only other name that I think makes sense, I'm a big Sac State guy because I went to Sac State. I wouldn't mind taking Marte Mapu away from them, who's just a special teamer, linebacker, special teamer, safety. He's not a star by any stretch. The other name that could really help the Niners, and they were shopping him, then there was an assault charge, and then the assault charge ultimately was dropped, and he was exonerated. But Jabril Peppers is a pretty good football player. They're free safety. 49ers don't have a free safety. Would you take Brandon Aiyuk and a fourth for 2/3 and Jabril Peppers? Something like that, where you add a free safety that can start opposite Malik Mustafa week 1, and you get a couple draft picks, and you get out from underneath the big money on the back end of the Aiyuk trade. So, a bunch of people are reporting this. I saw Todd McShay said, hey, I heard today that there's a lot of smoke between the Patriots and the 49ers over Aiyuk to the Pats. The only details we've heard is that the deal could be some form of a pick swap. What does that mean? It's really hard to say. But it also is a way for the 49ers to maybe get a couple extra third-round picks for Brandon Aiyuk. Maybe Brandon Aiyuk and a fifth-round pick for those 2 third-round picks. Who knows? I mean, it's hard to say what the true value of Aiyuk is at this point to either the Niners or the Patriots, but it's an interesting conversation and one that is going to be interesting to follow in the next 3 or 4 days as we get ready for free agency. I think the 49ers, you're going to see a lot of moving and shaking with a lot of moves around the league, and this could be one of them. Brandon Aiyuk, I believe. You said, Krug, what do you think? There's a lot of smoke. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of this. Read through the tea leaves for us. I think John Lynch speaks the truth. I think John Lynch told us last week from the Combine when Chase Sr. asked him, hey, what about these trade rumors for Brandon Aiyuk? I think he essentially told us right then to our faces, hey, we're in a financial pickle. We're cash poor. We're looking to hit the reset on the quarterback and a little bit on the rest of the roster. We know we need to get younger. We're going to move Brandon Aiyuk for less than his market value. Or maybe for his market value, but less than his high-end market value. We're going to move him for draft choices because we think it's the best financial move for our team going forward. I think they're going to divest themselves of this receiver in a package, either with the Raiders or Patriots or one of these teams that has enormous cap room. And I think you're going to get some relatively mediocre package of picks, and I think the Niners are going to get down the road. Now, fast forward to the 49ers. How do the Niners themselves replace Brandon Aiyuk in the upcoming NFL draft? It's going to be difficult to do. Teterow and McMillan's the number 1 receiver. I don't see the Niners going receiver at 11. I just don't. I mean, I would consider it if McMillan and Luther Burden the third fell, but I don't think they are going to consider it. They have too many needs on the offensive line, defensive line to go receiver that high. So I don't think they're going receiver in the first round, which takes out McMillan, Luther Burden, Emeka Egbuka, Matthew Golden. Now they did meet with a number of receivers that are in that second round range. Trey Harris from Ole Miss, terrific player, high school quarterback. Good. I mean, Lane Kiffin thinks he's the best receiver in all of college football. He might be. He's really good. Trey Harris. Jaden Higgins, who ran a great 40 time at 6'4", 217 pounds. They met with him. Isaiah Bond. They just recently met with him. I personally think Isaiah Bond would be a fantastic addition for the 49ers because they need that vertical threat. So those are 3 day 2 wide receivers. And Savion Williams, they met with him as well. So there's really, between Harris, Higgins, Bond, and Savion, that's 4 day 3 wide receivers or day 2 wide receivers that they met with. They also met with Antoine Wells Jr. from Ole Miss. I'm a huge fan of Dante Thornton Jr. from Tennessee. So the Niners met with some interesting players here for sure. And, there's Rock Taylor is another receiver they met with from Memphis. Could be a really interesting day 3 sleeper at wide receiver. So, and that's the bigger receivers. They also met with some slot receivers. And there's some good slot receivers in this draft as well. Tez Johnson, Xavier Restrepo. They met with Jalen Knoll from Iowa State. He's a guy that they've met with. Jalen Lane, I believe, from Virginia Tech. So they've met with some wide receivers that I think are not going to go in the first round, but easily could be replacements for Brandon Aiyuk. And to me, if you said, give me 1 or 2 receivers that you would go with in this draft, one, Savion Williams is an awful lot like Debo. I mean, he's He's very raw as a route runner and hands wise, but he's so dangerous with the ball in his hands. And I think he would be a terrific 49er. And then I would say Isaiah Bond. If the 49ers could wind up, let's just say for the sake of the conversation, it winds up being Brandon Aiyuk and the Niners' fourth round pick to the Patriots for Jabril Peppers and their 2 third-round picks. So now the 49ers would essentially have 3 picks in the third round. I would use one of those third-round picks on Isaiah Bond, the Texas receiver who runs so well. Georgia high school sprinter, and he's a big-time guy running. And he didn't have a great year for Texas. He was better at Alabama. He caught the game-winning pass in the Iron Bowl from Jalen Milroe, then transferred to Texas. And, he just didn't have as good a year this year. But Isaiah Bond is a difference-making vertical threat. And that's the guy that I would target. If you could somehow pivot and find a team willing to take Aiyuk and get some draft capital in that third round, get him an extra pick in that round. And you never know. I mean, you get a couple extra third-round picks in this draft, you might be able to turn them into Cam Scatterbo, the ASU running back, and Isaiah Bond, the Texas receiver, and have 2, Pro Bowl caliber players that you grabbed in the third round. So, the Trey Lance trade, nobody liked it at the time. Oh, man, you drafted Trey Lance in the first round. All you got was a fourth-round pick. Yeah, but guess what you got? You turned that fourth-round pick into Malik Mustafa. Now go ask the 2 teams who would rather have Trey Lance and who would rather have Malik Mustafa. The Niners won that deal. They got Mustafa. They divested themselves of Lance, and Dallas wouldn't make that deal again if the Niners offered it today. So yeah, that's what I see on the Aiyuk thing. John Lynch speaks the truth, and he basically told us, hey, we're hitting a reset. We're going to move this guy. We're going to move this guy for capital. It's draft capital. It's not going to be overwhelming, but we're going to get down the road, and I think they're going to do exactly that. And then I think they're going to go into this draft and try to replace, Aiyuk and Debo, possibly with 1 or 2 draft picks, and possibly they're in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round in the mid rounds. I think that's the way it's going to go. Now, we shall see. There's a lot more, that has to come down on this before it's official. But everything I'm hearing, it sounds like the 49ers are willing to listen for Aiyuk, and that there are teams that are wanting him and are making real offers. It sounds like the Patriots are being aggressive. And what does that mean? Does a pick swap mean the Niners move up in the first round? Does a pick swap mean the Niners move, up from the 4th round, day 3 to a couple picks in the 3rd round on day 2? We'll see. But I definitely believe where there's smoke, there's fire. And I don't think Brandon Aiyuk's going to be a 49er in 2025. All right. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to our good friends at Learn Keys Life Skill Academy. There's links in the description to all of our sponsors. Thanks to all of you for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.